Hi, everybody. Welcome. I'm going to wait until, it just turned 12:15. All right. I am no longer waiting to welcome everybody. If you would like to turn on your camera, you are welcome to. We're still working somewhat remotely and sometimes it gets lonely, so it's awesome to see faces. Thank you, Megan. I will say, having said that my internet connection isn't awesome today. So I may end up turning my camera off just so you all can hear me and there isn't a great big lag. We'll see how that works. I am Karen Geschko. I'm the Assistant Director at the Wisconsin Arts Board, and I am welcoming you to our 2022 question and answer session for Phase 1 applicants to the Creative Communities Grant Program. With me today from the Wisconsin Arts Board is Dale. You want to turn on a quick camera and say, hey, Dale?
Yeah, I'm leaving mine off for other technical reasons, but I'll turn it on briefly here and see.
Dale is the database and application form guru in the mix.
Yeah, I work with our grants management system a lot, so I'll be able to help you with those questions.
Right, exactly. Thank you. All right. Oh, I've got somebody else in the waiting room here. Gonna have to keep an eye on that, I guess. All right, we are recording this just in case you did not notice that, so that we can share this with those who couldn't join us live and in person, so to speak, today. So I wanted to do a real quick overview of what the Wisconsin Arts Board is, what the Creative Communities Grant Program is, and then we're going to walk you through well, first we're going to take your questions. If you have any burning questions, please ask them. And then we're going to take you through the application form itself. And if you have questions about the registration process, we can go over that too. We do have a piece on our Creative Communities webpage about how to do that, though. So we'll see what comes up question-wise. The Wisconsin Arts Board is Wisconsin's state arts agency. Every state has one. We get funding from the National Endowment for the Arts and from the state legislature. And we invest those funds in grants and technical assistance and programs throughout the state throughout the year. We have 15 governor-appointed board members from around the state and 4 staff people. So you've got half of the Arts Board staff right here, right now. And we have been around for almost 50 years. We're celebrating our 50th anniversary in 2023. So those are some numbers to share with you. The Creative Communities Grant Program is the one that supports arts projects around the state. So in the areas of arts education, of folk and traditional arts, and of local arts. And so you all get to choose which of those components you're going to apply to, or of which component best fits your project needs. And then you are going to hopefully submit a Phase 1 application by next Thursday, February 24th. And my thing is just going crazy here. So apparently there's other people to admit. So that's kind of an overview. The arts projects really focus on community engagement, whether the community, if it's an arts education project, is the community of the school and teachers and staff, etc., whether it's engaging the larger community geographically. And so if you have questions about how your project might engage your community on various levels, as we're going through this Q&A today, please put that out there as well as a question. All right. I think right now, before we go over, oh, thank you, Dale. Before we go over the application form itself, I would love to know if you have any burning questions that you're bringing to this session. And if you do, if you would please unmute and tell me your name, although in most cases I can see it on your Zoom screen, and the organization you're with and where you're located. That would be great.
Karen, I have a couple of questions.
Hey, Carrie, I thought you might. So who are you with and where are you?
Prairie Music and Arts in Sun Prairie.
Awesome.
Couple quick questions. The first is, as a first-time applicant, we had to submit an LOI. I wasn't sure what form that needed to be in.
That's basically an email saying, hey, we plan to apply. And
Okay.
the reason that we do that is because sometimes we have organizations that aren't nonprofit who want to apply. And so we can get to them before the actual deadline and say, actually, you need to find a fiscal receiver, or you need to find a partner, or that kind of thing. Or we have people who come in and want to do a project that really isn't eligible, or that's starting this spring, right? It's going to happen in April. And so that's our way of saving everybody some time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Last question too. We're thinking of applying for an existing program that we've been working on for a couple of years, but we're looking for funding to keep it going into the future. Is it best to talk about how that program is expanding, or is it okay to just submit and say, you know, this program's going well, but we need additional funding to keep it moving into the future?
It's almost as though I prepped you with that question. That's awesome. Thank you, Carrie. So this project grant is for new projects. It's not for existing programs, but
Okay.
having said that, if you have a project that is within its first 3 years of existence, so not that you're coming to us for 3 years, but that it's been going on for 1 or 2 years, and maybe it's in its 3rd year and you want to do something new, you want to expand it a little bit or do something like that, you can come to us for that cost and that piece. You could even come into it as this is the 3rd year of this project. We're not changing anything. It's been going on for 2 years. We're coming in for a 3rd year. And then the panel is going to say, oh, okay, interesting project. Why do you need state support now when you didn't need it in year 1 or year 2? Pandemic is kind of an obvious answer, but you know, if there are other answers too, that's an opportunity to share that information within the narrative, for sure.
Okay.
And again, if you've had a project or program that's been going on for a while and you want to try something new or add something into the mix that isn't there, you can come to us for those additional expenses. So you've been, let's say you're having a chalk fest and it's in its 3rd year, and this year you want to bring in several artists to work with the community on, you know, design projects or something like that in advance of the festival or at the festival, and you haven't done anything like that before, you can come into us for that new component.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Sure. Other questions?
I have a question, Karen.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, like, what the competitive nature is of the grants. Do you find that you're year to year able to award, you know, most of the projects, all the projects? Do you have a priority to give like full funding to some projects versus give some money to all the projects?
That's a great question. Thank you. So the answer is that phase 1 is always kind of a surprise to us. We're never sure how many applicants will come into phase 1. And so the panel reviews those sort of 1-pagers to determine which projects are strong and will probably stand a very good chance of being funded. Those are the projects that they invite to phase 2. So I couldn't tell you how many phase 1 applications end up receiving a grant, but I will tell you that of those who make it to phase 2, the vast majority of them are funded. So again, it depends on whether you're applying to the arts education component and how many projects are in the mix for that year, how many are in the folk and traditional arts component, and how many are in the local arts component. And yeah, so the competition varies depending on which of those 3 areas you are submitting a grant to. Does that help?
Great, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and the other thing was full funded or partial. I will say that the vast majority, again, of our grant panels, the panelists feel pretty strongly about spreading the wealth among those that are eligible. So that means that if if that means everybody gets partial funding, everybody gets partial funding. Some panelists say this, the application that scored highest in this mix is so strong, and we all, scored it so highly that we feel strongly that they receive 100% of their request, or maybe the first 2 or 3. Again, if there aren't very many applications within one of the components and the funding is there, then certainly in the past, we have had some years where all of the applications receive full funding. All right, everybody is frozen on my end, so that probably means my connection is unstable. So I'm going to turn my video off and see if that helps a little bit, and then welcome the next question.
Hi, Karen. This is Mary Rose. I'm here in Madison with Make Music Madison. We are celebrating our 10th anniversary this year, and I'm looking to expand into specific communities. And I'm curious for the application, would it be strongest for phase 1 specifically to have those community partners already identified? I'm in conversations with several different organizations, but I haven't determined exactly which direction we're going to go yet. So for phase 1, should we try to have that sorted out before we apply, or is that something that would be okay to have determined by phase 2? If we make it that far.
Yeah, that's another good question. Thank you. And holy cow, has it already been 10 years? That's amazing. So yeah, I mean, the more detail you can share with the panel, the better, understanding that there are only 450 words that you have to be able to do that. So, you could certainly, if you have the space, kind of list the communities that you've already, connected with or have commitments from, or you could say that you're going to be approaching community partners within the next month, and you will have them lined up by, whatever, and then you will include the full list at the, in the phase 2 application. I've seen it work both ways. The panel just wants to be assured that you have a clear sense of who you're going to be connecting with if you haven't already connected with them, and so that would be helpful. Your question actually reminds me that for a number of the projects that we have seen so far, draft-wise, if you are going to work with an artist and or artists, and you have not yet confirmed which artists you're working with, that's okay. And in fact, if you are using a community process to select an artist to work within the project, that's okay. The panel just needs to know, because we ask for a quick sort of artistic work sample. One image would do just fine, or one audio file or whatever. But if you don't have the artist selected, so you can share like a sample of their work, we've seen applicants just say, this is the kind of artist we're looking for. This is, and then they'll show a sample of an artist's work that sort of fits the criteria that they'll be looking for. And these are the criteria that we'll be using to choose that artist. And here's our timeline for choosing that artist. So I know that is a question that has come up with from a number of applicants already this year. So I wanted to get that out. Thank you, Mary Rose. Thank you for keeping your camera on. That's awesome. I feel like such a hypocrite for not having mine on, but connection being what it is. And thank you, Rachel. Yours is on too. Did you have a question? Or are you just listening in? All right, fair enough. Any other questions right now? Burning questions, otherwise, things you want to bounce off us? Yes, hey, Sam.
Hi. So
Hi.
my name is Sam Woods, coming from the Milwaukee Artist Resource Network. You'll never guess we're in Milwaukee. My biggest question coming in here was on timing. So I know the grant, or the window starts on July 1st, but for the program that we are applying for, we can wait until then, but if we know like reimbursement on funds is coming, we wanted to get it started in the spring. And so my question is, as far as timing, can, I guess, would we have to like cash checks after that July 1st date, or could we kind of write contracts and set everything up, and then with an understanding that we'd be reimbursed after that July 1st date? Does that kind of make sense what I'm asking?
And another great question, and the answer is no. So projects do have to begin as of July 1st. So you can do all the planning, all the prep work. You can even start a project before then, but as far as we're concerned, the money and the expenses related to that project that are eligible happen after July 1st. So if you have if there's a 3-month art program, for example, and you're doing June, July, and August, the expenses related to all of the June work, you have to take out of your project budget. You have to take out of the application form other than just simply contextual information. And you have to focus on the part of the project that begins as of July 1st and goes through August, as an example. So if an artist is being paid for 3 months, you could ask us for 2/3 of that artist's salary as long as they're doing the work in July and August as part of that. Does that make
Gotcha.
sense?
Yep. So just to make sure I'm understood, so what I'm hearing is that the both the work and the money needs to, but the work needs to be done after July 1st, and the money needs to be like, I guess the checks have to be written after July 1st to count for this grant, if I'm hearing that
Yes,
correctly.
yes, exactly. And if you wouldn't mind just outlining what your project is, that would be cool.
Sure. In a nutshell, we are looking to support artists who are looking to spearhead social justice dialogues or community conversations. I guess that's kind of the short of it. So yeah, I mean that's what we're looking to do. So I mean, we want to do it again as as soon as possible. But if we have to wait until July 1st, I mean that it is what it is.
Okay, I will also say I love the July 1st question because sometimes our state legislature is wrestling with our state budget and they don't get the work done by the end of June. This year, we are as a state in a biennial budget process. That means it's a 2-year thing. So this year there shouldn't be much wrestling. We should have access to our funds pretty quickly. But I can tell you that we won't be able to write checks or even ask DOA to write checks on July 1st. It will happen in the month of July. This is just experience talking. As awesome as our partners at the Department of Administration are, they are dealing with a lot of stuff. And so as soon as we alert you to the fact that the board has said, yes, you are going to receive a Creative Communities grant, congratulations, we send you, or rather upload into the Smart Simple grant system, your grant agreement, your contract. As soon as you sign that and get us the pieces that we need, sometimes there's a grant revision report, sometimes there's 1 or 2 other things. As soon as we have the quote paperwork back from you all, then we can get that to the Department of Administration and they can start the check writing process. So please don't plan on having a check in hand from us by July 1st or even July 2nd or even July 15th, perhaps. If you need to, and certainly we've seen some grant recipients do this, they go to either they find money from the organization and just kind of put it into this and then reimburse that money when our check arrives. Sometimes there isn't that kind of a cushion. And so in worst case scenarios, we've seen some people who are passionate about the project just write a personal check and then get reimbursed. And we hate that because we would so much rather, do what you need to do, right? But we would so much rather be able to give you the money as quickly as possible so that isn't necessary. This is sort of, I feel like I'm doing a buyer beware thing right now. So
it's appreciated. It really, I'll pass that information along. That'll definitely help in figuring out what kind of, because this isn't the only program we'll be running at that time, and so help
Okay.
with scheduling, which we we're doing right now. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, sure. Yeah, great. And I'm betting that that was a helpful question for others as well. All right, other burning questions? Otherwise, I mean, Dale and I can certainly share a screen and start walking you through the actual application form, which also might spark some questions. And if it does, maybe you all could like either turn your camera on and wave, or you could just do the reaction thing with the hand, whatever, to let us know that you have questions, and we'll go through that. Last call before we jump in. I'll ask later too. Okay. Alrighty then, Dale, if you would please be so kind as to share your screen. I will ask actually for a show of reaction hands to let me know how many of you have registered within Smart Simple already. How many of you have gone through the registration process? Yeah, good. Okay. All right. Great. For those of you who have questions about that process, oh, look at all of you with your thumbs up. Great. We have a how to register kind of piece on the Creative Communities webpage, and I am going to direct you there at the end of this, because we have a bunch of resources there, including a handy dandy form to collect in-kind contributions if you want to do that as part of your match. All of our grants are one-to-one matches, dollar for dollar. And that means that if you receive a $6,000 grant from us or propose it within your project budget in phase 2, what we expect is that you'll be matching that $6,000 with at least a dollar for dollar match. So the total project cost will be at least $12,000. With this project grant, you can match half of your grant with in-kind contributions. So again, if you get $6,000 from us, you have to come up with at least $3,000 in cash, but you can come up with the other $3,000, up to 50%, in-kind contributions. So that is donated volunteer time, that is donated supplies, that is donated space rental, that is donated marketing, whatever project costs you have that can be met through in-kind contributions. That can be part of the mix. So there's an in-kind contributions form also for those who aren't as familiar with collecting those and tracking those kinds of contributions on the Creative Communities webpage. All right, Dale, can you unmute for me and share your screen?
Sure can.
Awesome, thank you.
So this is a made up organization, so we can just see what's going on here. If you've already created the application, you'll find it here. If you've registered but not created the application, then you have to do that first by just clicking apply now for this program. See, this is in the way. There we go. But since I've already started it, I will just click here.
Great.
And it starts with the information that you've put in when you registered. This all comes from your profile.
I'm going to take a moment and encourage people to make sure that they fill out the mission statement and the organization history much more articulately than this New Glarus cat farm did. So the organization history is there to give you an opportunity to provide the panel with some context for how long you've been around, what you've been up to, and it saves you space in the narrative. So rather than taking up 100 words describing your organization, that's where you can do that here. And then if you continue to apply in other years to Arts Board grant programs, this organization history will already be there. So you don't have to keep repeating yourself year after year. Thanks, Dale. Oh yeah, you can toggle, so you can go between the different parts of the application either by clicking on the tabs above or the next button at the bottom right of the thing. And you don't have to save. Do you have to save your draft at every page, Dale? You don't, do you?
You don't. You couldn't hurt if you really want to be fussy about it, but it shouldn't be
Right.
necessary.
Okay, thank you. Great. All righty. And then here we have the narrative. So some pretty basic questions, again, that gives the panel a sense of what you are. This is actually the regranting program, Dale.
Oh, did I open up the wrong one?
Yeah.
Shows you how much I was paying attention. Let's see. I guess that's right. I had gotten as far as submitting this one, so I just opened up the wrong place.
Awesome.
There we go.
Yep. Oh, that's right. The other piece is the fiscal receiver. For those of you who are using a fiscal receiver for this application, and my guess is very few of you will be. I'm not expecting a lot of fiscal receivers in this mix. But if you are, this is the section that you fill out with and maybe we can, if there are people using fiscal receivers, we can circle back to this at the end of the conversation. All right, and then the project details is the basically the short summary, the narrative. You're going to identify, of course, whether you're applying for local arts, folk arts, or arts ed up top. And I love your project title. That's awesome. Okay. And then you want to make sure that you've got a start date that begins no sooner than July 1st of 2022 and ends no later than June 30th of 2023. That's the eligible window for these funds. Here we go. Alrighty. And then, yeah, here we go. There are those questions that we're asking you to touch on in the 450 word limit, because we have found that those are the questions that most panelists need answers to in order to determine whether the project is likely to be funded. So
I see we have a couple of raised hands, Karen. Do you see that, or is it just
I
me?
don't. I do now. I see two Megans. So let's go for Megan P first.
I apologize. My 9-month-old son raised that hand. I'm doing good. Thank you, though.
No apology needed. How about Megan H?
Thank you. Okay,
Sure.
so I guess with the projects that we're considering to do, we would have to start before July 1st. And I think you mentioned this to Sam, that you can begin before
Sure.
July 1st. But I just
Yep.
want to make sure I'm understanding this correctly.
Yes, and so thank you. When I talk about the project, for our purposes, we're talking about the parts of whatever you're doing that happen after July 1st, because that's what you are telling the panel about. So in your narrative, you can say, while this project actually begins a little earlier, we're only requesting funding for the piece of the project that happens after July 1st.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Can you do a quick thumbnail of the project, Megan?
Yeah, sure. So I could see this project going in two different directions. The one that is, it'd be kind of in its third-ish year of a reoccurring project, and it's a storm drain art project where we're working with local artists or even just community members who have a knack for painting. And it's a way for us to, one of my main roles with the City of Superior is I'm a water resources specialist, and I talk and educate folks about stormwater. And stormwater art is such a great way for people to connect.
Yeah.
What happens in the streets happens in our streams. And the other idea I have is a mural, a water quality mural that would illustrate in some way stormwater. And so.
Got it. I'd be happy to talk with you and go over the pros and cons. later on another call or whatever. But you said that the project has to begin before July 1st. Is that because of city funding or?
Well, I guess I've received feedback from previous artists, and they said that they had started painting in July for I think the 2018 or 2016 storm drain art project, and they just didn't have enough time. Like they had a limited amount of time to do their work because they were also working full-time or have a family or whatever it is, or on vacation. So they were restricted according to what they mentioned to me. And so I would encourage them. I would probably have to purchase, the paint and materials, and then eventually pay them after we receive the check. So I'd want them to start as soon as possible, essentially.
So let's you and I talk offline about that, because that would, I have some thoughts on that, having had a number of conversations with Superior about stormwater art related projects over the years. So that would be, I would really appreciate that. I'll send you an email afterwards.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'd love that. Yeah, Karen, yeah, that would be really, really great. Thank you.
Okay, it's a plan. All right, thanks everybody. And thank you, Megan. I appreciate the details there. Okay, so having gone through the timeline question again and the narrative question, I think that takes us to the bottom of that page. Yep. And the next tab or whatever is the budget. Here, we really are just asking you to say how much you think you're asking us, you're going to be requesting within the grant proposal. If you think you're going to be requesting 3,000, then put that there. If you think you're going to be requesting 6,000, you can change the number between phase 1 and phase 2 if you need to. Well, we're not going to hold you to it, but it gives the panel and us a sense of the scope of the project fiscally. So please put that in there. And we also, Dale, if this were the actual application, would not there be something where they would be able to put in their organizational budget numbers in the budget summary?
That's my problem, is that I submitted this one, so I better unsubmit it and it will look more like you. We'll see.
Oh, that'd be great. Thank you. You get to see a little preview of the back end, and if it's making your eyes cross, don't worry, it makes mine cross, but it doesn't make Dale's cross, and that's the key piece. So you can, if you would like to just start chant your mantra for a moment or two, you're welcome to do that. We'll be right back. All right, awesome, thank you. All righty, yay. So here you go. You're going to be clicking on the budget summary. You'll see, oh, so there isn't a drop down. Okay, so here in phase 1, thank you for the reminder, we really are just asking about what your organization's budget is for this current year. So if you're on a calendar fiscal year, like if your fiscal year runs, January 1 through December 31st, then give us what that number is right now for this year's budget that you've projected. If you're on the same fiscal year that we're on, which is a July 1 through June 30th fiscal year, then give us whatever that fiscal year number is for you. And we are looking at, that will sort of help contextualize the project amount that you're requesting against your total organization's budget. And that also is helpful for the panel. All right, thanks, Dale. What's next? The evaluation. Oh, yeah. We have discovered that over time, evaluation can be a really scary word for some folks, and we try to demystify the process. It's basically saying, how are you going to tell? You've established some goals for this project. You're doing this project because you want certain things to happen. How do you know whether they've happened? How do you know whether you've been successful? And that can be anything from, we want to make sure that we teach X number of people this particular art form, to we want to bring our community more closely together. Okay, one is pretty easy to measure. The second, a little bit harder. So there are different ways to determine whether you're successful in doing that. if you need help figuring out how to evaluate a project success, I am really happy to do that because I'm a little bit of an evaluation geek. So I'll just put that out there for those who are in phase 2. But here's a handy dandy little survey or a little evaluation tool checklist. Just let us know how you're planning on evaluating the project. Again, this can change between phase 1 and phase 2, and then the reality of the actual project. But it, again, gives the panel a sense that you are thinking about how you're going to do that, because evaluation is key to successful projects, honestly. Alrighty, and then the last tab is the work sample tab. And that one, honestly, you can upload a number of things, but it's really helpful to the panel if you do upload at least one image. You can, I wouldn't upload 10 unless there are 10 really different ones that give the panel a fuller sense of the project. If you're doing digital images, I mean, I think you're allowed to upload up to 10, but whatever. And then, or an audio file or a video file. So that link, actually not a file, but a link to those things. And then please do let the panel know what that work sample that you've just uploaded has to do with the project that you're proposing, if it's not screamingly clear. All right, I think that's it. The final thing is the assurances, Dale, or is that not a thing here? Yeah, there we go at the bottom. So you've got to click that all of this is true, and then sign it and off you go. There isn't actually, there's not a signature box on this one, is there?
No, just type your name.
Just the name. Great. Okay, awesome. And then at the end, the critical piece here, which is submit phase 1. You definitely want to click that. All right. If you do have to interrupt this application and come back to it later, make sure that you do click that save draft, which is important. And there you go. The phase 1 application. Why don't you, yeah, I mean, we can go back to it if we need to, but I think that that'll do it for now. Thank you, Dale. All right, did that inspire any additional questions from folks?
I really appreciate you running over both of you running through that application process. It was a little daunting at first, but it seems very doable.
Good, good, I'm glad. I am glad. Well, let me just take you, Dale, would you mind doing a screen share, going to the Creative Communities webpage and doing a screen share of that? Surprise, I didn't ask you to do that earlier, but is that something you could do? Great.
Sure.
I just wanted to point out a few resources that we have for you all there. If you haven't had time to read through the remarkable text that is available on that web page, please do so. It'll give you a little glimpse, a little deeper glimpse into the program. But in addition to that glimpse, we have compiled a few resources at the bottom of the page that we are, that I want to call your attention to. So yeah, thank you. Resources for grant applicants. If you want to just see what some best practices in grant proposal writing are, you can click on that first, Grant Writing 101. If you have questions about registering for Smart Simple and this application process, that second bullet is for you. Best practices are just that within the application, within this particular application mix. There are some samples of successful arts education proposals and projects, because we get a lot of teachers and others saying, can you give us an idea of what has succeeded in the past? So here are a few of those. If you want a glimpse into the budget questions that we'll be asking you in phase 2, you've got a couple of resources for that. And then that sample in-kind contribution report. Again, that's a form that you can use just to track the in-kind contributions that you're receiving as a match for this. We're not going to ask you to submit that to us, but track it so that if you are audited or if you are asked, you can have a handy dandy form to turn to there. Let's see, learning assessment ideas for arts ed applicants. So arts education applicants in particular are going to be looking to the Wisconsin Arts and Creativity Standards for Arts Ed, put out by the Department of Public Instruction. And so we have a resource there for you. And then finally, for those who do make it into phase 2, we have a handy dandy link to the last 3 years, or at least I don't see FY21 up there, but whatever, of certainly last year's panel, where you can just listen in on the discussion that they had last year and the questions that the panelists came up with. And the fact that they only have 10 minutes to talk about these. They'll have almost 3 weeks to review them once they get those phase 2 applications. But when it comes to meeting and connecting, they're gonna be moving quickly. So this gives you a sense of the kinds of questions that pop up for the panel that you might want to address in your narrative if you haven't. That's like super, super extra credit though, and only for those of you who are really curious or who have the time. We put it out there as an additional resource. Megan, I see your hand up. Is it up from before or did you put it up again?
Yeah, I've put it up again. Thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah, I guess you reminded me of a question I had about the budget. I guess previous grants that I've applied for, the budget had to be very detailed. And so this phase 1, we would just be submitting the total amount and not like an Excel spreadsheet detailing out what goes where.
No Excel spreadsheet. Yep. Phase
Okay.
1 is a simple, give us the amount you're going to be asking.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, Kristen. Dale, I think we can take this down. Thank you very much for sharing it. Yeah, Kristen.
I have a
Hi.
question. It might be a little bit phase 2-y, but it came up when we were working on our last grant report. We weren't sure when it comes to in-kind, if we're working with a partner who's contributing a lot of space and time and resources that we're not paying for, that's, an in-kind gift. Do we need to calculate the cost of that and include it in the total budget of the project as on the expense side? Because it was a little confusing when we were filling out the actual budget document. I see you give a thumbs up, so the answer is yes to include it in the expenses.
Yeah, I mean, they're contributing to the expenses of the project, right? And so, yeah, absolutely. Thank you for asking that. It's always tricky in the form. So you can say, we have $12,000 of expenses, 6,000 of it is volunteer in space. Sorry, go ahead. I'm going to turn my video off because it always makes a lag here. Can you repeat that?
I didn't say anything.
Oh, sorry. Well, there you go. So yeah, so that is exactly right. Please include the expenses that the in-kind contributions will quote pay for in your project budget. That's perfect.
So then when it comes to the actual budget document, and this is where I apologize for being phase 2, this answers the question for the total budget in phase 1. When it comes to the filling out the budget, then in hopefully in the phase 2 application, we would put the expenses that the in-kind's covering under expenses. So then the income line would not equal the expenses line. It would be the income line plus the in-kind chunk would equal the expenses line.
So we have a total income and a total expenses, and the total income would include both cash and in-kind.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I'm fresh from report stuff, so we can talk offline. It sort of came up in a confusing way filling out the report. So
yes, it did. We hope that we have fixed that for the final reports. Thank you, Kristen. Yes, indeed.
Thank you, Karen.
Yeah, you bet. Hey, Connie, I see your hand is up.
Am I being heard now?
You are.
Okay, great. This is Connie from Wisconsin Rapids. I have a question going back to the phase 1 application that you were going through. It mentions, showing work of an artist that you will be working with, or a link. I think it offered that you could put in a link. My project is going to involve both visual artists and musicians. So is there an opportunity for me to send a link of a musician performing, for example? So a link to a musician's video, for example. Can I do that?
Yes, and then that will be your single work sample that
Okay.
will let the panel know the artistic quality of the work that will be involved in your project.
All right, very good. Thank you.
You're welcome. I see that it's 1 o'clock. This always goes by so quickly. Are there any other burning questions right now? Okay. You all have or should have my email address. I will actually put it in the chat again, just in case you don't. You've also got the Wisconsin Arts Board website there, or the email address, and that always, Dale sends that on to me, so that's great too. But please do not hesitate to ask questions as they come up, and we will get back to you as soon as we can. I will tell you that that sometimes, because there are 4 of us, sometimes it takes a little while to get back to you, but we will do it as quickly as we can, and appreciate your patience. So thanks for that. All right. Last call for questions. Have a great
Karen,
rest of the day, everybody. Yeah,
Did you want me to stay on this call or did you want to give me a direct call?
I'm going to give you a direct call, Megan. Thanks for checking.
Yeah,
All right.
sounds
Take
good.
care, everybody. Have a
Thank
great
you,
day.
Karen and Dale.
Yes, you're welcome.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.